pitch. You can put it on the board. Yes!
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged, USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you try their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignons, and of course, those massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Hell, even those Wagyu and Angus Prime burgers likely be the best you ever had. Certainly the best I've ever had. Check them out at UppercutChops.com on your mobile device or on your computer, or give them a call and find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Yes! All right, a big welcome in to everybody streaming on Instagram, Facebook, and AMP TV, AAMP.TV. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Also, welcome into everybody on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates, plus our independents from coast to coast, from Hawaii through Texas, all the way to Atlanta and beyond. Also, Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, and WOW Cable Television partners and affiliates. Thanks for carrying the show, and thanks for joining us there as well. So, Major League Baseball has really big Brinks trucks kind of backing up to their bank. And of course, the Major League Baseball sponsor revenue. Yes, the sponsor revenue. It sort of hits you in the mouth like a hockey fight, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so their revenues hit $1.2 billion ahead of next year's jersey patch, right? So they'll wear a patch somewhere on their sleeve or the jersey or something like that. This is unbelievable. In fact, Major League Baseball and its 30 teams generated an estimated $1.19 billion in sponsorship revenue during this past season. In fact, the season's still going. Of course, World Series right upon us. And according to consultancy IEG and its sponsorship intelligent database, they're the ones reporting this. In fact, the cash total is up 6% from last year. 6%. That sounds to me like over $60 million. But a major spike is coming with the introduction of sponsor logos on jerseys next season.
Show me the money!
IEG's global managing director said in a video interview, quote, "The jersey patch is going to take baseball to a new level of sponsorship. The best way to increase revenue is to define a new asset, find new real estate," close quote. Now, according to Sportico, back in March, Major League Baseball and the Players Association approved jersey advertising while renegotiating the collective bargaining agreement, and the patches can be up to 4 inches by 4 inches and will appear on the uniform sleeve. Now, the San Diego Padres were the first team to pull the trigger, signing a deal with Motorola for $10 million a year. The Boston Red Sox and Mass Mutual reached a 10-year deal that could be worth over twice as much per year as the deal the Padres had. As a matter of fact, Legends is shopping what is expected to be the most lucrative club asset, of course, the iconic uniform of the New York Yankees. And a smaller Nike swoosh was added to the uniforms a couple of years ago, but the 118th World Series will likely be the last fall classic without any larger logos on the jersey. It's a big sellout, folks. It's a sellout and a money grab. That's what this is all about. In fact, ballpark naming rights have traditionally been the biggest sponsorship assets for major league teams. I got to say this one. People have made fun of the Chicago White Sox. We're at the Guaranteed Rate Stadium, and they call it the G Stadium, the G Spot, the G this, the G that, whatever the hell it is. But the White Sox take that $25 million every year, and they donate it to help kids. A lot of people don't know that. So that money goes right to charity from the Chicago White Sox. That's right. Anyway, so these other teams, they're accumulating a massive amount of money worth more than $100 million a year, but the jersey deal will top those deals in many cases, particularly if big market clubs playing in non-branded stadiums like Yankee Stadium, Dodger Stadium, Wrigley Field, if they all join the Red Sox with the jersey deals. That executive from IEG says, quote, Player branding is usually recalled better in any kind of environment when you query consumers. It is thought to be more authentic and memorable, close quote. Now, the NBA had a 30% jump in annual sponsorship revenues when it introduced its patch program 5 years ago. And the Golden State Warriors, the Los Angeles Lakers, signed a deal worth at least $20 million annually. And that executive thinks Major League Baseball patches offer more impact for sponsors beyond just a season that is twice as long. IEG says, quote, baseball's pace of play creates longer focus on players, how the game is shot, how it's going to guarantee those player sponsors more visibility than the NBA, close quote. I think that's a very good statement because the psychology behind the logo and this logo placement, where the logo placement is going to be seen over and over and over when a player's standing in the batter's box, right? It's going to have maybe up to 30 seconds there. And so in between pitches, the camera for sure, because the money will be paid conveniently, if you know what I mean, to focus on the players and those close-up shots and even the pitchers as well. So I could see that one. That's a very good point from the psychological standpoint of it. Now, IEG uncovered 950 brands that contributed to Major League Baseball's $1.19 billion in sponsorship revenue, and that's dollar total ranked third behind the NFL's $1.8 billion and $1.64 billion for the NBA. So, these estimates are for the sponsorship right fees for the league, teams, and revenues. They don't include spending on activation or media, and player endorsements are also excluded. Imagine the money. Brinks truck again. Beep, beep, beep.
Show me the money!
That's right. Back up that truck because there is going to be a giant amount of money dropped. Kind of like what our government is doing for needless things, spending money where they shouldn't. Well, guess what? This is where they probably should in baseball, but at least we're seeing where the money is going to, unlike with what this current administration is doing and their cronies are doing. Hopefully they get destroyed in the midterms. Nonetheless, these estimates, again, are only for the sponsorship rights. Keep that in mind. Imagine Major League Baseball contends that sponsorship revenues for its teams, stadiums, and the league is $1.6 billion. Of course, that's a big number, but those players' pieces, boy, that's going to bring a lot of money. Banks, beer, insurance companies, and they continue to be three largest categories for Major League Baseball, and brands in those industries spend nearly $300 million combined this season. Anheuser-Busch, InBev, T-Mobile, Nike, Coca-Cola, and Pepsi spent the most this year among individual companies. IEG estimates that crypto brands spent $22 million on their Major League Baseball rights, but that digital funny money and those companies seem to be cooling down a little bit, if you know what I mean. Now, Pep Boys jumped into baseball this year and partnered with 9 teams for this season. Amtrak, Craftsman, Tools, John Deere, Pennington, Seeds, and of course, they all signed deals with at least 4 clubs starting the season. So Major League Baseball added league-level partnerships this season with Adobe, Capital One, Corona, Q Health, Dairy Queen, Distilled Brands, and Mattress Firm. But the agreement that got the most attention popped up recently when Charlotte's Web became baseball's official CBD partner for this season, and of course the playoffs and the next 3 seasons overall. And it was the first deal by one of the 5 major U.S. sports leagues with the CBD industry in the first place. Now, I'm not really sure what to make of that because, look, folks, if you look at the way the money is distributed in certain industries, you say, okay, I get it. But here's the conundrum. You think about the CBD industry, which is a very, very good industry for pain management, et cetera, et cetera. It's actually a very good situation. But the problem is the association of anything CBD, at some point, at some direction, somebody affiliates it incorrectly with marijuana. Right? So we're talking about non-THC products, right? But the problem is the general public says, well, that's not legal. And in fact, the federal government says marijuana is not legal. So on a state-by-state basis, it's a case-by-case basis. So what happens to those teams that are actually in non-legalized marijuana states? How do they view the CBD industry? I mean, right here in Nevada, we have, a conflict of enforcement of laws is what it seems like. So the reason it's significant, because certain states will have certain teams. How about Utah and the Utah Jazz, for example? We think about basketball, right? What about those teams and CBD products, right? We have to think about those things. What about those those players that want to take a pain management type of product or whatever, but they can't because it would violate league policy? So this has to be something that coincides with league policy. And if those players that have issues want to play, maybe they might have to go to different places to go play where it's legal, in the same way that for those that don't want to take those non-FDA approved experimental drug injections, well, guess what? You're not playing in Canada, and you're surely not going to play, for example, with any of the Canadian teams because of their stupid laws in Canada. Then again, that's a different ball of wax. And we're going to be back in just a few minutes, and we're going to continue on with baseball because we can. Lots more to come here on the Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
800-361-3491. 800-361-3491. 800-361-3491. Again, that's 800-361-3491.
AMP, the multi-format network, is here to help create, produce, distribute, and sell your content. For more information, send a message to info@aamp.tv. That's info@aamp.tv.
EXW Trenton Kicks 101.5. The music you love to hear.
WRFM, Stereo 105.
You're listening to 97 WYNY. WYNY.
WAYB FM 95 Atlantic City. Wherever you are, whatever you do, have a nice day. Sky Radio.
Dit zijn jouw favorieten. Donna. Dag en nacht. De fun. Jouw favoriet. C100.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at Legal Shield, providing legal protection and peace of mind. Legal Shield can help with traffic tickets, texting and driving, DUIs, court appearances, estate planning, even contracts given to people they don't understand, plus a whole lot more. Maybe someone socked you in the mouth and you need a lawyer. Contact Legal Shield. Maybe they can help. 213-245-1305. 213-245-1305. Again, 213-245-1305. Or check them out at nocourt.us. That's www.nocourt.us. Or email for fast response to info@nocourt.us. Yes! All right, welcome in everybody tuning in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the 49ers, Yankees, and Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome in to everybody that's listening in, maybe with our friends over there on CNBC and NBC News over in California. Thanks for joining us right here in Las Vegas on KQQY 90.1 Under the Sun coming right up. Also, over in Atlanta, Georgia, 99.1 FM, WDJY. Over in Auburn, Alabama, home of the world champion Atlanta Braves. Yes, they still are the world champion Atlanta Braves. Not for too long, but guess what? They still are. That's WAUD out of Auburn, Alabama. That ranges from Montgomery, Alabama, all the way over to Columbus, Georgia. And a big welcome to everybody who's picking up our content over on KTXT Raider Radio over in Lubbock, Texas, Texas Tech University, 88.1 FM. And, of course, everybody else on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Wow Cable TV, and Instagram, Facebook, and AMP TV, AAMP.TV. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. All right, so I'm going to stick with baseball here because I have a few more things, and of course got a World Series that's going. And what are the biggest issues really facing baseball today? So in the last one, there's a whole bunch of money. The last segment, we talked about a whole mess of money, big pile of money that's going out to major league teams from all these big corporate sponsors and all this other nonsense. All right, Brinks trucks everywhere being backed up. I guess they're going to have to really start printing more money. Who knows? I guess you ask the current government administration about that one. I think they know a little bit about that. Anyway, so what are the biggest issues facing Major League Baseball? Now, this is according to Jim Albert, emeritus professor at Bowling Green State University. If you don't know where that is, that's about, it's about a half hour south of Toledo, Ohio. And he says, quote, I think Major League Baseball needs to think about how to change the game so it's more exciting to watch. The introduction of the pitch clock and maybe computer calls of balls and strikes should help speed the game up. There are currently too many strikeouts. Any changes to that would reduce strikeouts and increase the number of balls put in play and would be beneficial. Also, changes that would increase the number of attempted steals would be helpful. Close quote. Obviously, Mr. Jim Albert, who's a professor, doesn't know diddly beep about baseball in the first place. Because if he knew anything about baseball, and he knew anything about how the game is physically played, you wouldn't make such asinine comments, in my opinion, of course, about computer calls of balls and strikes and saying, there's too many strikeouts and any changes would reduce the strikeouts. Whatever. Dude, stick to being a professor. Seriously. Really, stick to being a professor. Now let's go to some other clown. How about this one? Here's one from Seth Tannenbaum, PhD at Manhattanville College, assistant professor, says, quote, the biggest issue facing Major League Baseball today is expanding its fan base. While Major League Baseball is planning on making, and likely will continue to make changes to attempt to attract a younger demographic of fans, they do not seem to be putting in the same amount of effort to expand their fan base to other demographic groups. For example, the Major League Baseball could do more to attract female fans and fans of color. Close quote. Did he just say that? Well, apparently he printed it. It's printed and said it. Mind you, this is the guy that says, for example, quote, the Major League Baseball. No, it should be, for example, Major League Baseball. Genius. Yet you're a PhD. Maybe that stands for poor, helpless, and destitute? Or desperate? Not really sure. Nonetheless, Seth Tannenbaum of Manhattanville College, wherever the heck that may be, apparently hasn't been paying attention to what's going on in baseball in the first place. Oh, they're not doing enough to attract female fans and fans of color. Really? Why is that? Why would he say that? Maybe he's been living under a rock and he doesn't know what's going on in the fantasy baseball world, in the betting world. Seth Tannenbaum, really? Is that all you got? Come on, man. All I could say is your comments are third grade level, yet you're a PhD. Act like it. Now, according to John Grady, attorney and PhD, professor and director of undergraduate studies and research, Department of Sports and Entertainment Management, University of South Carolina, USC, the original USC. He says the best way to enjoy a baseball game on a budget is, quote, attending the live game experience is by no means a cheap night out. But the same could be said for any entertainment experience given the current economic environment we are all experiencing. Budgeting for concessions before attending the game or using a family bundle food option that some stadiums offer now, or an unlimited food VIP offer, can help to take the sticker shock off of games, close quote. All right, so he makes some pretty good points. But what he's missing is the fact that the average game, I mean, for a family of four to go to an NFL game, for example, it's about $1,000, maybe a little bit more. Have you gone to Yankee Stadium and bought 4 box seats, got food and all that stuff? It costs more than, in many cases, a football game, which we had just said costs over $1,000. Never mind parking, right? So look, folks, yes, he makes good points. John Grady, we say, yes, family bundles are good, but you got to go on off days. You're not going to see the teams you want. You're going to see the lesser games on the schedule that basically they just want warm bodies in the seats in the first place to hopefully buy some concession, maybe a $10 hot dog or a $20 beer, if you know what I mean. Something kind of ridiculous. So he does make some points. Unfortunately, John Grady has skewed points. And being a JD and a PhD, one would imagine, with that big brain of his, that he would be able to come up with something a little bit better than that. But we'll still give him a round of applause. Now, on the same subject, we have Jim Albert on what's the best way to enjoy a baseball game on a budget. Jim Albert is... it's the same guy, the emeritus professor, Bowling Green State, the guy that made the profound statements, says there are many low-cost ways to enjoy baseball, including fantasy baseball and watching local teams on live television. Baseball data is currently free, and the associated software is free. So one can enjoy baseball by doing one's own exploration of the data. Is that all you got? Jim Albert, again. Stick with your professor work over at Bowling Green. Really. Just stick with it. Because I got to tell you, buddy, low-cost ways to enjoy baseball games, yeah, of course you could just watch it on TV. If you don't have the Major League Baseball Network or one of those pay-per-view type of a programs, well, guess what? Now you can't really do that. I mean, you're better off just going to a local high school game. And frankly, a Little League game is probably the most pure form of baseball, which pretty soon they'll be charging admission for that as well. However, in my opinion, as a former baseball player, probably the best brand of baseball to watch, most pure talent, is likely going to be a fast rookie league, A-ball. And those are kids right out of high school. They're all throwing gasoline. They're throwing hard, but these guys are running everything out. Got to tell you, folks, that is the game to watch, and that's where you'll probably have the most fun as well. Okay, now also, how have fantasy sports affected fans' enjoyment of Major League Baseball? I'm going to close this one out as fast as possible here. And according to Seth Tannenbaum, the guy from Manhattanville, once again, he says, quote, this is not a straightforward question, as it differs from fan to fan. However, I would say that I'm skeptical that fantasy baseball is responsible for getting fans out to the ballpark. While there are certainly fans at the ballpark who play fantasy baseball, I would be surprised if they were not already the kind of fans who went to the games before they started playing fantasy baseball. Fantasy baseball is more likely to lead to digital engagement, for example, paying for Major League Baseball television or to watch players, and of course, on out-of-market teams. Some good points, some Nonetheless, John Grady says, you already heard from him from South Carolina, John says, fantasy sports, quote, fantasy sports have allowed fans to become more involved in following a wider range of players, not just the stars of their favorite hometown teams. So it helps broaden the reach and appeal of baseball's rising stars, keeping fans more engaged in more teams in league rather than following just one team. Okay, I'll agree with that. All right, so John, we'll give you that one. Everything else, not necessarily sure. But look, there's a lot of stats on this, and a lot of the stuff came from Wallet Hub. But I'll tell you what, folks, when we come back, we're going to stick with baseball. Why? Because we're on a roll. We got the World Series coming up, and we're going to talk about baseball cities and some World Series facts leading up to the 118th World Series. Lots more to come, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this commercial right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935, or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
800-361-3491. 800-361-3491. 800-361-3491. Again, that's 800-361-3491.
So, you want to be in show business. Do people tell you that you're really funny, you have a great personality, and you should have your own talk show? Many of us have been told that, but we don't know how to get started. It's easier than you think. Let the pros at Cali Vegas give you a free talent evaluation. Call 949-445-1119 and learn how quickly you can create, produce, and host your very own talk show. Imagine not having to sit in traffic every day, commuting back and forth to the same old boring job. Get started in television or radio today with your free talent evaluation from Cali Vegas. Call 949-445-1119 or visit them online at calivegas.com. Make your dream come true today and create your new career and learn how to become a television or radio star with the help of Cali Vegas. 949-445-1119. Call now.
to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas and the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at Cali Vegas, helping people create and host their very own radio, TV, or multimedia talk shows. They work directly with AMP TV, AAMP.TV, who you're also watching this program at right now. Get out and sit in traffic, commuting back and forth to the same old boring job, and host your very own talk show in your very own home studio. 949-445-1119, or check them out at CaliVegas.com. That's CALI Vegas.com. Also, email at info@CaliVegas.com. Email at CALI Vegas.com. All right, welcome back to everybody watching on TV, listening in on the radio, streaming on your mobile device. Can't get away from us, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow on all those mediums. All right. The top 20 baseball cities. Now, this is kind of elementary, but at the same time, it really isn't. Right? We're thinking about spending. We're thinking about, in the very first segment, we talked about the patches on the uniforms, what that's going to bring to Major League Baseball and the players and the teams, the team owners. Big money, mad money. Maybe $2 billion a season. Could be some crazy number like that. Not really sure. The NBA is already making money with it. The NFL is already making money with it. Major League Baseball is going to jump in and make a bigger splash. Remember, they've got 162 games, plus the preseason, 3-4 weeks of that, plus the postseason, 3-4 weeks of that. Mad money. Mad, crazy money. Top 20 baseball cities. Of course, starting at 20, Kansas City, 19, Baltimore, 18, Philadelphia. Who knew? Of course, maybe it's because Philadelphia has lost the most professional games in professional sports in the history of professional sports. And remember, they booed Santa Claus too. Houston, number 17. Now, Houston is the fourth largest market in the nation, yet they're number 17th in the top 20 baseball cities. Imagine that. San Diego, you can call them Slam Diego. Oh, they're so loyal, whatever. They're the 16th ranked baseball city. Imagine that. There's stats on this. Milwaukee, 15, small market city as well. St. Pete, I can't believe the Tampa Bay Rays even made the top 20. It's a good organization, but the fans just don't support the Tampa Bay Rays, right? And of course, they play in St. Petersburg. And of course, the Texas Rangers, of course, they play in essentially the greater Dallas Metroplex, which is, I think, the fifth largest market in the nation, if I'm not mistaken. Well, guess what? They come in as the 13th top baseball city. What a conundrum. Pittsburgh comes in 12th. Cleveland comes in 11th. Oakland, well, that's not going to be for too much longer because they'll be right down here in Vegas at 10. Minneapolis, for the Twinkies, comes in at number 9th. The San Francisco Giants, who are the front runners, in my opinion, to sign Aaron Judge. And along with Aaron Judge, they'll probably end up picking up Anthony Rizzo and possibly Trey Turner from the Dodgers. So watch out. The Giants could be, wow, next season. You never know. But they come in as 8. The Cincinnati Red Leg, Red Stocking, and Reds. That city comes in number 7 in baseball's top 20 cities. Chicago comes in 6th. Boston comes in 5th. Atlanta in 4th. Why is Atlanta 4th? That doesn't make any sense. LA 3rd. St. Louis 2nd? Maybe it's a loyalty thing. And New York 1st? I don't know about that. I think, if anything, you're going to have to shuffle some of these around because some of these on the list, I don't agree that Houston would be 17th on this list, and I certainly don't believe that Milwaukee would be 15th on the list. It doesn't make sense. How could Cleveland be 11th on this list? I mean, the Royals? Yeah, maybe the 20th. I don't know. To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But these are the people that have all the statistics. So I'm not really sure. Anyway, so we think about the World Series. Now, remember, Philadelphia and Houston, number 17 and number 18 cities, top baseball cities. We think about TV markets. Okay, well, those are 2 of the top 10 TV markets. Yet, baseball cities, they're 17th and 18th. How about this? How about some World Series facts? How about this? 2,829 versus 1,135. Average ticket prices for World Series games in Philadelphia and Houston. They're half the price, less than half the price if you want to go down to Houston, apparently. Now, $1.98 million is the amount the Houston Astros spent on each regular season win. Wow! Compared to Philadelphia's earth-shattering number of $3.1 million per win.
Show me the money!
Let that sink in for a minute. The Phillies spent $3 million a win. Wow. Mad money, mad numbers. Here's another number. 11.7 million. The average viewership for the 2021 World Series up 20% over the year before. And the reason it was up likely is because you had that plandemic situation happening in 20 and this season was short. 60-game season. Yeah. Okay. Here's another one. $235 million. Total ad revenue generated by the World Series in 2021 compared to $481 million in ad revenue generated by the Super Bowl. That's unbelievable. Wow. Clear my throat. Mercy. Here's another one. An astounding $1.14 billion. What does that represent? It represents the estimated amount Major League Baseball teams lost during the past 2 seasons combined. However, they stand to make far north of that with this new patch deal, possibly up to a couple of $2 billion, this new patch deal on their sleeves next season. So guess what they're saying?
Show me the money!
Yeah, it all balances out, folks. This is all one steaming pile of you-know-what. And at the end of all of this stuff, who ends up making the money? Certainly not the consumers. The consumers, if they were smart, would boycott and bring the ticket prices down because right now they're paying way too much to go to a game. Sorry, folks, it's not worth it, in my opinion. And that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Now, according to NBC Sports, Major League Baseball home run records in the postseason, World Series, and the history, they have this to offer. NBC Sports Philadelphia says, defense may win championships, but home runs can win a World Series. Following a regular season in which Aaron Judge and Albert Pujols made history hitting home runs, more players have a chance to etch their names into the history books with juiced baseballs. Of course, I added that piece. And home runs in the 2022 playoffs and World Series. Now, of course, whether it was a game, a series, or the entire career, these guys homered when the stakes were high. Which players had the most home runs in Major League Baseball postseason history, though? How do you like that one? Part of Manny being Manny, remember him, Manny Ramirez, was hitting home runs in October. And Manny played in 111 Major League Baseball postseason games. That's almost an entire season. And hit 29 homers in only 410 at-bats. So this guy hit them when they mattered. He crushed 13 playoff home runs with Cleveland, 11 with the Red Sox, and 5 at the tail end of his career with the Dodgers. Jose Altuve is approaching Ramirez's record, and the Astros second baseman broke a tie with Bernie Williams, one of the best players ever. I love Bernie Williams. Nice round of applause for Bernie. He actually broke a tie with Bernie Williams for second on Major League Baseball's all-time postseason home run list with a dinger against the Atlanta Braves in Game 4 of the 2021 World Series. And, of course, here's where Manny Ramirez, Jose Altuve, and Bernie Williams stack up against the rest of the top 10 for all-time Major League Baseball postseason home runs. Coming in, tied for 7th. So we have 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th all together, all with 18 home runs. Carlos Correa just finished out a season with the Minnesota Twins. Nelson Cruz, very good player, all had 18 home runs, by the way. Reginald Martinez-Jackson, but you can call him Mr. October, 18 home runs. And, of course, Mickey Mantle, the great Mickey Mantle, 18 home runs as well. Now, that's wonderful. Moving up the ladder, tied for 5th, 2 people. George Springer with 19 and Albert Pujols, the aforementioned Albert Pujols, with 19 home runs. How about Derek Jeter? Comes in 4th on the list with 20 home runs. Bernie Williams, the great Bernie Williams from the New York Yankees, 22 home runs. Altuve with 23 broke that tie, as we mentioned. And Manny B. and Manny with 29 home runs in the postseason. Of course, which player has the most home runs in a World Series history? Let's think about that one. Here's a list, of course, of those players. We have a bunch of guys tied for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, tied for 10th. George Springer, Chase Utley, Goose Goslin, Hank Bauer, and Gil McDougall all had 7. Frank Robinson, Bill Skowron, and Joe DiMaggio all had 8 home runs. Reginald Martinez-Jackson in the World Series, 10 home runs. Lou Gehrig tied also with 10 home runs. Duke Snider with 11. Yogi Berra with 12. George Herman Ruth, but you can call him Babe Ruth, with 15. And Mickey Mantle tops that list in World Series home runs with a whopping 18 homers. Unbelievable, folks. All right, back here on the Circus in just a few minutes. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
You don't sit behind a desk every day to earn a living. You're out and about making it happen. Excellent. And sometimes you get a little bit behind on your paperwork, like bookkeeping and paying your taxes. It's easy to get behind on paying your taxes. It happens to the best of us. And you know what happens next. The big bad IRS comes knocking on your door. And when that happens, you need to call the good old boys at the Tax Doctor. Let them do what they do best. Deal and negotiate with the IRS so you pay the lowest you can in back taxes that the law allows. We are a 100% U.S.-based company, and we've saved our clients millions over the years in back taxes. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, call my friends right now at the Tax Doctor and learn more.
800-989-1694. 800-989-1694. 800-989-1694. That's 800-989-1694.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
800-361-3491. 800-361-3491. 800-361-3491. Again, that's 800-361-3491.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. That's AAMP.TV. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Also, welcome back to everybody on Instagram and Facebook. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow there as well. Also, Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Wow Cable Television, Hotel TV in over 500,000 rooms from coast to coast, gaining over 4 million impressions per hour. Thanks for joining us also on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast as well. Make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, a prior guest, or recorded shows, which are a podcast. All can be found on Apple Podcasts, on Google, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, even Audible, right? A lot of people like to listen to those audiobooks. Check us out. We're even on Audible as well. Just Google Sports and Circus, or actually search Sports and Circus on Audible, and you'll find, 1,500 odd episodes, whatever the hell it is, some large amount. Anyway, lots of entertaining guests and a lot of entertainment from yours truly as well. All right, also on the partners page at thesportscircus.com, make sure you check out the College of Southern Nevada Athletics if you're right here in the Las Vegas Valley. CSNCoyotes.com for upcoming game and events and tickets. CSNCoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Yes! All right, shifting over to college football. I saw a video. It was a YouTube video. It was a clip off of an interview, if I'm not mistaken, with, I want to say it was 60 Minutes or something like that, and Deion Sanders. And essentially, the topic was about the HBCUs, and could the name, image, and likeness money help lift the colleges? And so, look, there's no perfect solution to this. And this is a really interesting topic. I really enjoyed this one. The video with Deion was fantastic. The impact one guy could make on the entire SWAC, the Southwest Athletic Conference, was unbelievable. Anyway, young black athletes can help drive these HBCUs while making big bucks by benefiting from being at places where they're seen and valued as full humans. This is according to an article I read. And in fact, it appears that the public sees their role and their sole function is to keep money flowing into the pockets of the coaches who smile in the faces, of course, and their families during the recruiting time, but of course disparage them behind closed doors. Sad. Very sad. And that's, I would say that's largely true. HBCUs used to be athletic powerhouses, especially in football. Roughly 10% of the players in the Pro Football Hall of Fame came from HBCUs, the historical black colleges and universities, with 4 schools, Jackson State, Grambling, Morgan State, and South Carolina State, of course, with 4 alums each, while more recent high-profile programs like Tennessee and Florida actually have fewer. Now, of course, those playing there at those schools were largely because they had no choice. Segregation meant they couldn't go to predominantly white institutions. Those are, I guess, referred to as the PWIs. And once that began to change, former Alabama Governor George Wallace back in the day, way back at the University of Alabama, a long time ago, and that board of trustees allowed black players to play for the Crimson Tide, which changed things. And using free black labor worked out well for the states in the past, so why not bring back the practices, what some people had asked questions of? Now, history certainly has repeated itself, given that Bama was undefeated and back in the Sugar Bowl 3 years after a famous and sometimes viewed through a mythical lens lost to USC in 1970 and has won 9 national titles since then. Now, yet contrary to what some people believe, a scholarship is getting paid. Why? The expense of... Listen, folks, I can say this. College tuition is really expensive. And the expensive cost of tuition, at some points, it's $100+ a year. Depends on the school. Room and board, which costs well over $100,000 for all of these survival everything. Everything. Remember, these kids are essentially working 2 jobs. One is a student and one is an athlete. Yet they're being paid essentially through scholarships, through some of these very expensive scholarship programs. Many of the HBCUs, they can't afford this kind of thing. So there is a very, very large disparity in recruits in the way that they're sent from A to B. Now, HBCUs are one of the few enduring positives from the Reconstruction era. Now, the Reconstruction era, 1861 to 1900, is the historic period in which the United States grappled with the question of how to integrate millions of newly freed African Americans into social, political, and labor systems, and of course was a time of significant transformation within these United States of America. Now, of course, that was the time when this country worked towards its notion that all men being created equal. Now, you may recall Thomas Jefferson wrote about that, the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, he said, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, government are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. And what Thomas Jefferson wrote there is, look, the government, we can remove you officials if you're not doing right by us. Now back to the HBCUs. This actually plays a part here. But the combination of massive cuts in state and federal investment in public higher education means that nearly all HBCUs are operating on shoestring budgets. And of course, the state of Mississippi won't invest in new pipes in its capital city, which is 3/4 black, and makes it essentially impossible for its neediest residents to receive an incredibly modest $260 a month for necessities like food or shelter. So hoping it will budget the needed funds for its HBCUs, Jackson State, Elkhorn State, and Mississippi Valley, to educate and uplift young residents, it has worked for generations to systematically marginalize as a pipe dream in the first place. And of course, since the race-wealth gap has grown even wider, these schools don't have scores of wealthy alums. And as a result, endowments at HBCUs are a fraction of those at non-HBCUs. According to data from fiscal year 2020, only 4 of the 101 HBCUs have endowments of over $250 million, and there were 114 non-HBCU schools with endowments of over $1 billion. Now, this is where the imperfect solution to the problem of keeping HBCUs solvent and thriving comes into play. For a couple of years, put as much money as you can spare, beg, borrow, or whatever, into the athletics facilities to get more 5- and 4-star recruits to follow in the footsteps of Travis Hunter, Makur Maker, and Monet Davis. Broadcast and sponsorship money will follow the talent, then put it back into all corners of the schools. If and when some of those athletes reap big paydays in the pros, they hope that a number will give back to the schools. Yet, even alums of many non-HBCUs don't give back to their institution in the first place. That's a whole nother issue. How about the optical problem of putting athletes at the front of the HBCU line in the first place? So encouraging black students, athletes, to attend students and schools built for them isn't a new idea. The great Bill Rhoden wrote about this years ago in his book, and Jamil Hill did it more recently in a piece for The Athletic. And it's something I'm against. Taking from academics to give to athletics. Billionaires like Mackenzie Scott are not the answer and shouldn't be counted on to give multi-millions of dollars gifts annually every year or every other year. Lewis Moore, professor of history at Grand Valley State University and author of, quote, "We Will Win the Day, the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Athlete, and the Quest for Equality," close quote, told Yahoo Sports, quote, "It's a tough one because that's not the HBCU mission. I think it's a bad look to pump, let's say $500 million into football, when everything else isn't upgraded, hoping that pays off. Now, I think it would work if the companies get involved, and that the interesting thing about Deion, be it Deion Sanders, he tapped into Walmart. And you might not have to necessarily have to take money from other places if you can get companies like that to do it. But at the same time, if other things are crumbling, it's a bad look, close quote. Now, Moore is right, of course, and I agree, though, that HBCU is needing something before many of them disappear. Now, Moore said, quote, "There's not an easy answer. There's not. And I think most interesting is about that we've been having these same conversations and that there's never really been a change. Because up until 1984, the NCAA controlled the TV contracts, who gets on the TV, and it was rare that a black institution got on TV, so you're not getting the exposure, you're not getting the payouts. It's a combination of that. It's a lack of state funding. There's so many things going on that really have been, over the years since integration, really have hurt these schools for competing economically," close quote. So from Deion to Eddie George, star power matters. Deion Sanders' effect on Jackson State in just 2 years is pretty strong. He asked Walmart to build the Tigers a new practice field. Boom, they did it. The SWAC, the Southwest Athletic Conference, picked up major new sponsors thanks to Deion Sanders. A year ago, visiting Jackson, a city's marketing arm estimates an economic impact of $30 million due to the popularity of the Tigers and their success last season alone. And not everybody brings Sanders' juice. Pro Bowler Eddie George, in his second season as head coach at Tennessee State, isn't as animated as Deion and doesn't appear to have the cameras documenting his every move. He still hasn't landed a 4-star recruit, but his presence had led to a significant spike in home attendance, including 22,000 at Nissan Stadium for TSU's recent homecoming win over Bethune-Cookman. So look, Deion brings a lot. That primetime, that coolness factor. Jackson State seems cool. And I think the change that someone like Deion brings is gigantic. And maybe the HBCUs need more of that. Tell you what, folks, pay attention to those schools. There are some great schools down there. There's some tremendous talent. Support those historical black colleges and universities because, A, they're trying to do what everybody else is trying to do, educate their students, but at the same time, they're very, very poorly funded. So give a little extra support to them. Those are the HBCUs. And I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you next time right here on the Sports Circus on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Business owner or pursuing the dream of starting your own company? Do you know where to start or how to grow that existing business? The American Business Trust Company has the answers you need. The American Business Trust Company can help you start up with capital, business strategy, sales, and marketing, and establish your company with a physical location or an online presence on the internet. You decide. You bring the idea. Then American Business Trust can help with the rest. For a free evaluation, visit them online at abtrustco.com. That's abtrustco.com. Or call them at 657-600-1876. That's American Business Trust Company. 657-600-1876. Call them today. They'll help your business right away. That's American Business Trust Company. Online at abtrustco.com. American Business Trust Company.